As immortal beings, it seems reasonable to believe that the elves of Tolkien's Legendarium should be having many children over centuries and millennia as the ages of Middle-earth drift by. The reality seems very different. Parents to many children seems to be the exception, and elves lose interest in reproduction to focus on other pursuits. This video will explain why this is the case, and why Middle-earth isn't a land overpopulated by immortal elves, even before the fading of the elves and the rise of mankind. What does Tolkien tell us about elves and reproduction? If we look at the most popular works concerning elves, The Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, and even Unfinished Tales, there isn't much detail there on the marriage of elves or the birth of children. For those interested in an in-depth look at these matters, the nature of Middle-earth goes into real detail and specifics, from how long pregnancy would last, time spent between pregnancies, the aging process, and the fact that elves would not reproduce during times of trouble or wandering. And even though I like going into such detail, I don't need to go to such lengths to explain why elves become reluctant to reproduce, limiting the population of the world. Many of the answers lie in the essential volume of the History of Middle-earth, Volume 10, Morgoth's Ring. In Laws and Customs of the Eldar, we are told why elves aren't drowning in children after thousands of years, and why the likes of Nerdanel and Fëanor being parents to 7 children is remarkable when it comes to the families of elves. As the weight of the years, with all their changes of desire and thought, gathers upon the spirit of the Eldar, so do the impulses and moods of their bodies change. Tolkien tells us that to men, it seems that the elves do not grow old in body, meaning they can bring forth children at any time in their lives. But the elves do age, even slowly, the limit of their lives being the life of Arda itself, which, despite being beyond the reckoning of men, has an end, and ages also. This explains why, through a mortal's perception, we may view elves at 100 years or 500 years as the same to look upon as an elf of 3,000 or 5,000 years. Physically, they usually look similar as they age, with exceptions of course, such as Círdan, an ancient bearded elf, or Mactan, a not so ancient bearded elf. More importantly, spiritually there is a difference when elves reach an age beyond what we can fully understand. They eventually and naturally have little or no interest in procreation, as their children or even grandchildren are most likely creating life. In some cases, parents, children and grandchildren would all be at the stage where their urges of mind and body are beyond parenthood, with nature urging them to fulfill other desires. Also, the Eldar say that in the begetting, conceiving, and still more in the bearing of children, greater share and strength of their being, in mind and in body, goes forth than in the making of mortal children. The creation of life does differ between the kindreds of elves and men. A famous example of this is the birth of Fëanor himself. We are told that in the bearing of her son, Míriel was consumed in spirit and body, to the point where after his birth, she yearned for release from the labours of living. Never again shall I bear child, for the strength that would have nourished the life of many has gone forth into Fëanor. Fëanor is of course unique in many ways, but the strength that had passed from his mother into him would have happened with all other elves that were born, just not to that extent. The creation of life is demanding in physical and spiritual terms. It's not just unfulfilling to spend immortal years constantly giving birth, but it has the potential to harm, due to the strain on body and soul, the two parts of an elf existing in harmony, their very nature as the incarnate, exacerbated by the marring of Arda, the poison stain left by Morgoth, affecting the very world elves rely on for their existence. For these reasons it came to pass that the Eldar brought forth few children, and also that their time of generation was in their youth or earlier life, unless strange and hard fates befell them. Miriel was spent when giving birth to one exceptional child, and as she lay to sleep in the gardens of Lorien, her spirit departed her body, and she passed in silence to the halls of Mandos. This is explained as the strength of mind and body passing into the child from the parents, the unbegotten Fea, or spirit, drawn from the mother, the will diminishing somewhat, and as she carries the child, she nourishes the Roh, or body. What is particularly interesting about the reproduction of elves is that the father indirectly nourishes the child with his own spirit, as it is bound with the mother's before any act of procreation ever takes place. This is the power of marriage between elves, an everlasting bond uniting both, the seriousness of the vow that they take, transcending words and affecting the birth of new life. The birth of Fëanor also explains his fecundity, his strength of will being so great in terms of his desire to create, as we witness with the Silmarils, but also with the most natural form of creation, eventually being father to 7 children, and Neirdanel herself being called the Wise, strong-willed, skillful and patient, the perfect partnership to create such a line. I can summarise and say that as elves age, the need and desire to create children diminishes, and elves begin to pursue other spiritual development, other forms of growth and creation. The act of bringing children into the world, changing the mind and body of the parents, aiding in the reluctance to produce further children. I take this as some inherent knowledge or awareness that overcomes the elf. In most cases, this would be a feeling of contentment or satisfaction, allowing the next stage of life to begin. But Miriel's life and death shows us that it can be tragic and can come on suddenly. There are then certain lines of elves where many children are born, exceptions, a display of incredible strength of spirit and will, leading to the birth of remarkable elves, shaping the history of Arda itself. Thanks for watching, and I want to thank a supporter over on Patreon, who did not want to be personally named, for asking this question. I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always I will ask that those new to the channel consider subscribing to help out.